Feminist apparel. I'm not sponsored by them, but I do want you guys to know about them. They donate 10% of all their earnings to charities that support women's rights. As of the time of recording, they are donating to Save the Children, helping little girls that were born in brothels to get out and get an education. And Feminenza, I don't know how to pronounce it, Feminenza, and they help young women and become world leaders. That is their goal. They also support independent female artists that are passionate about equality, ethical, sustainable manufacturing, and important charities doing great work for equality. Feminist apparel. I just like, did I just show my own address, but I didn't. So why I'm a feminist and why we still need feminism, as always, I have it in my little notebook, so I don't forget everything. So, the first reason is one that I struggle a lot with, and that is women afraid to go out by themselves, walk alone in the dark. I've noticed that men and boys have way less trouble with that. Like me, if I'm on campus. And this one time I was out with a friend of mine, and she went to somebody else's house, so I had to walk home alone. It was a 15-minute walk. I literally had 99 already in my phone, ready to dial. A man got out of a car park behind me, I'm sorry, and started following me, and I was scared for my life. I was like, okay, I'm gonna die. This is the day I'm going to die. You know, when you see, when people say, well, women already have it so good, just stop complaining by now. I think we should stop complaining. Well, a bit, I complain, but and we have true equality, not only in rights, but also in treatment. I will stop complaining when I'm not afraid to go out by myself anymore on campus where nothing really happens. Another one is the Me Too movement. Obviously, rape, sexual assault, it still happens to, officially from what I've heard, to 2/3 of all women will encounter some sexual violence in their lives. From my experience, it's every woman at least once. Everyone I've asked a lot of women and girls, everyone will experience it at least once. And I actually want to share my experiences. I think there are 5 in total, 4 or 5. I will do that in another video, but that is definitely for me a reason why we still need feminism. And it's not just, I'm not just blaming men, and I'm also not saying only men rape and only women get raped. It's just from my experience, every woman will have some sexual violence in their life, and that is too much. And the Me Too movement, of course, has already really helped. And I'm not just here complaining. I think, which also probably be another video, what do we need feminism to do? I think empowerment is very important, and I think the Me Too movement has already done a lot. There are also some other movements. There was the one supported by Emma Watson was more for Hollywood. Time's Up for actors, but it's still a huge problem, and women are just starting to come out about it, which is already great that that's happening, but of course it needs to stop. So slut shaming and catcalling, now these in the grand scheme of things seem like non-problems, but it kind of ties into rape and how people react to it, and of course other acts of sexual violence that she was asking for yeah, it's not her fault. And if you ask for it, literally ask for it, it's not rape, it's consent. Not always though, but you know, if there's consent, there's not rape. If there's not consent, it's not her fault. So I literally said to him, because he said, well, a little bit, I don't understand why she has to go out like that. And I was like, you don't have to understand. You legit do not have to understand. I'm not here trying to make you understand. You don't have to. You just don't. You just have to not touch women without consent. That's the only thing. I don't get why that's so hard. Abortion. Now, luckily, I live in a country, the Netherlands, and the UK sometimes, where it is legal to abort a fetus. In Ireland, however, it isn't. Those people have to go overseas. In other states in the US, from what I've heard, it's still not legal. And you have a lot of protesters. In the Netherlands, protests have just started. I don't know why, but people protesting outside of the doors, people, women not being able to talk about having been through an abortion. And I think that needs to change. Not only do laws have to change, but as a society we also have to be more open to women who've had abortions. I'm really skipping through the list. Some of these will get their own video, but yeah, it's just a reasons why we still need feminism, and why I'm a feminist, and some of these will get their own video. Last names. Now this also sounds like a non-problem, but it is a problem for me. I have my mum's last name, even though my parents are together and have been together before I was born. And the reason I have my mum's name, my name is Merel Melgers, and that's alliteration. And my parents had already chosen my first name, and my mum liked the alliteration of my name with her last name, and that's why I have her last name. And that is a great reason to give your child the woman's last name. Usually it's just expected that you have the father's last name. Not everyone does, but I don't know anyone who has their mother's last name and the father is and has always been in the picture, like with me. Like if you don't know the father, or the father left right after or even before birth, you get the mother's last name, obviously, but it's never a discussion. Like if you're together and you want to have a child, that, you know, a man and a woman, with a man and a woman, obviously, you know, it's gonna be either the man's last name because they're two men, or the woman's because they're two women. But I feel, am I recording? Yes. I feel like it's never a discussion like, oh, we want to have a baby, whose last name is gonna get. And I know that it's expected that you have your father's last name, because sometimes I have to give my own name. Like at university, at a sports club that I went to, they want a contact, and I always gave my father's phone number. And they're like, okay, what's your father's name? And when I say his first name, they say, okay, and Melgers, right? I'm like, no, because that's my mum's last name, it's not his. And, you know, usually there's not like, okay, but people do expect me to have my father's last name because that's the norm, and I think that should change. I also don't think it should always be the woman's last name. I think it should be a discussion, and I think around 50% of the time it should end with it being the woman's last name, and 50% of the time should have the child having the man's last name. That's one point that was brought up by Caitlin Moran in her amazing book, How to Be a Woman. It's a really funny book that I think every woman should read, and men as well, because it's just really funny. But she talked about, okay, so Caitlin Moran was a interviewer, like a journalist, was a journalist for a magazine about music, and she was interviewing Kylie Minogue, and they were talking about new album coming up and stuff, and then she got a call from her editor saying, yeah, but what was she wearing? Again, I was like, I don't know, like a green top or questions. That's been a thing for a long time. In interviews, College Humor actually made a really funny video about that. Also about the afraid to go out thing. But also they often get asked, do you want to have a baby? When do you want to have a baby? Men don't get asked that. And this isn't the biggest problem, but it does show some inequality in treatment. But Caleb Mohan rephrased that question beautifully. When are you gonna fuck it all up by having kids? Because usually the woman stays at home, at least goes to work part-time, and will be out of the workforce for a while because she's pregnant, and after that just gave birth. She needs some rest, and if you're out for that amount of time, it's usually hard to, get back, get promoted after that, even years after. So yeah, if you care, it's all about your career, you're gonna fuck it all up by having children, and men won't. And part of that is biology. Women are the ones giving birth. They have to, give up, part of their time because they'll be exhausted and sick. And part of it might also be biology. I don't know where this comes from necessarily. Women stay at home more with the kids, even now that they have a choice. Usually women want to. But that's why that question gets asked. And I just, I include this. To me it isn't that big of a problem, but I thought Caleb Mohan's answer was really funny to this. The pay gap. Well, there was a pay gap. People say, oh, there wasn't a pay gap. That was just wrong. Yes, the first one was wrong. We still shouldn't completely disregard that one because it took all the professions of all men and women that work. Also didn't take into account that women usually work part-time and men full-time. So there was a pay gap. But that pay gap still shows that women have lower positions than men usually, and usually work part-time and men work full-time. That pay gap is still there for a reason. But then there was a real pay gap done, and onderzoek. English is not my first language. And it took men and women from the same company in the same position that worked for the same amount of hours a week, and women still earned less. So I study at the University of Aberdeen, and last school year there was a big demonstration going on from all the teachers and other staff because there was a pay gap at my university. Women got paid less than men in the same profession with the same amount of experience, with the same amount of hours. And I was baffled by that because I didn't believe that my university would do that and that would still happen in the UK. Like, why? Why would you choose to pay women less? Like, all across the board. And that wasn't just at my university, because this demonstration and strike that was happening at my university was happening all over the country. Women, there were other problems as well, but I'm talking about a pay gap, obviously. Women all across the UK at universities get paid less than men. And that really hurts because I might want to work at a uni or anywhere, and I don't want to get paid less than a man for the same exact amount of work. Women in politics. This just frustrates me. When Hillary lost in the US, it frustrated me. Not that I agreed with everything that she said, but Trump was worse in my opinion. But also, it showed that women, there's still a huge class ceiling in politics for women. And this is a problem because in uni I also had a subject called ethics, and I learned about feminist ethics. Women think differently than men. They make decisions differently from men, and men are the ones in charge. 50% of the population, around 50%, is female. 50% of US presidents should have been female, but it's 0%. And there's a reason for that. There's still a huge class ceiling. Women can't get to that yet. We got close with Hillary, but it's still not possible. And in the Netherlands, we have a minister president. It's not so high as like a US president, but still, 0 have ever been female. It's always been men. And that is not only really annoying and frustrating, but it has huge effects on still a huge thing, because it's not only on politics. Was it like 1% of CEOs were women? Still, women can't get as high as men. And yeah, well, actually, according to the UN, there's no country in the world where women have equal rights to men on paper. But in a lot of countries, we're almost equal to men on paper, but not in treatment. Women just can't get that high yet. There's still this glass ceiling, and we need to break that. Yeah, this thing is also laughed at by a lot of people, and it's mansplaining. Now, I'm not too bothered by this. What I am bothered by is men treating women like they're toddlers, and this has gradually become better over history. I still notice in every relationship with the men I've ever had, but maybe that's just coincidence or just me. But also mansplaining, which is when a man explains how a woman should feel. That has a huge effect on women, because if you keep doing that and keep doing that over and over, women will feel invalidated, feel like they're not allowed to feel the way that they feel. And I was, there's another story from uni. We were reading Ibsen, what was it called? I have it here. A Doll's House, which is about a woman getting treated like a toddler by her husband. And we were talking about, she felt sad and stuff, but not angry. She never expressed anger until the last scene where she yelled at him and slammed the door. And I have always felt like I'm not allowed to be angry. I may be sad, I may be scared, I may not be angry. When I was angry, I didn't allow myself to feel that, and I told people I was sad instead. And I was in a tutorial discussing A Doll's House, and another girl said, well, the protagonist slamming the door when she left her husband forever is such a powerful statement, because for the first time she let herself feel anger. And I've never felt like women are allowed to feel angry, and my professor was just like, what? That's new to me. Women aren't allowed to feel angry. And most of the girls agree with that, including me, because we've all felt that. Because when we're angry about, let's say, inequality, men say, oh, you don't have it that bad. You're not allowed to feel like that. You're not allowed to be angry. And women feel that we are not allowed to be angry. And I'm 21 years old now, just finding out I'm allowed to be angry at stuff, at anything. So that is what that mansplaining can do to women. It is a big problem, and it's not just men that are the problem. I've talked to women who say that it's worse in Saudi Arabia, in Arabia, I don't know, but it's in English. But so you should complain. You have equal rights here, which again we don't yet in the Netherlands or the UK, but we definitely don't have equal treatment. So you're not allowed to feel angry. You're not allowed to complain. Women say it too. But it is a thing that for the anger example that a lot of women feel and men don't even know about. My professor didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know that other women felt it as well. Subtle sexism. This is again a thing that Kayla Moen talked about, and she hilariously said, is some sexism, how do I know if some sexism is happening to me, or is some sexism happening to me? Now what the subtle sexism does is when someone is sexist, someone treats you in a way that you wouldn't treat a man, but it's not immediately that you're like, oh, he's an asshole. It is so subtle that you kind of start to believe it, because you don't recognize it as sexism. It's like a more personal attack. And I think this is a big part of what causes internalized misogyny, when women start to hate themselves or believe that they don't deserve equal rights and equal treatment, or that they don't need it. And loads more, but this video is already 23